Jesus freak here. Now I've had this for some time. This is the reprint of the 5th edition Thompson chain that happened shortly after Zondervan took over publishing rights. And this just came today. Back just came upstairs from picking it up. Had a little time to let my cat have a bit of a drink. The trash can's on the way back to my computer. I'm not going to deal with this, as I didn't deal with it on that one. It is on either. You see, 5th edition, 6th edition. Looks like they've upped the ribbons because the old one only had one, and this one has two. CBD stuck the flyer in the cover. A little bit of a crinkle there. And presentation page. Now, unfortunately, they have moved production of the Thompson chain from the U.S. This one was printed in the U.S. This one is handled by R.R. Donnelly's Chinese branch. The first thing I notice, other than obviously they're using the Nelson font from 2K Denmark, is that they move the introduction and outline to the beginning of the book instead of having it all in the back. There's a bit more use of color. Draws more attention to stuff, and the overall look is a little bit cleaner, I think, than the previous edition, which the 5th edition and the non-KJV editions, you see, it looks pretty ugly, honestly. But they're using red full-size verse numbers to mark paragraphs. And they're also using red to mark section headings and the chain numbers. This edition does wibble a little bit on Mosaic authorship of the Pentateuch. I'm not sure that that's necessarily true of the earlier editions. I haven't really checked, because they separate that stuff in the older editions. They whiff a little bit more on Deuteronomy with the Joshua wrote chapter 34 bit. As you know, I believe in a pre-existent Torah, and thus necessarily this obviously doesn't push that idea. It tends to try to be a little neutral about that stuff. Does give the traditional authorship, but it kind of equivocates on this matter. Surprisingly, for a HarperCollins, it has a more or less complete 8 title pages for the New Testament, still missing a little bit of it. The table here isn't as fancy as it is in the previous editions, but that's also in line with the Spanish Thompson chain. Unfortunately, yes, it's red letter. Now, see this big part here, which is the Bible, and the rest is helps. It's not as thick as I think the helps in the previous edition. I believe that's because it took out the archaeological section. But the helps are still there. They've been given a coat of paint. They're more or less the same format, but they're a little bit easier on the eyes. The smaller stuff being in a sans serif font, a little bit easier on the eyes than a serif font, and especially the Century Schoolbook. It's still a 2K Denmark job in the indexes. I actually wonder if they're going to bring out a Spanish 2K Denmark Reign of Valera 60 Thompson chain. The various maps have been updated, along with the charts and tables that go with them. They're using 2-color printing. You know, just black and red. It's not full color, but 2-color, which is fine. Topical Treasury. Practical helps for Christian workers. That's absolutely useful. Because we all should be, you know, out there spreading the word, whatever means we can. And this whole bit's preserved from the previous editions. Yes, I have a version of that in Spanish, too. And then there's a concordance at the end. It's, I believe, Nelson Concordance. I mean, Nelson and Zondervan are the same company. So it makes sense that Nelson resources are being used in the Zondervan Bible as much as Zondervan resources appear in Nelson Bibles, such as the maps. There's a gazetteer. Some note pages, which Zondervan introduced because Kirkbride 5th edition didn't have them. And here's their full-color Zondi maps, which are a bit more complex, I believe. Yeah, I think there's more maps in here than there are in the older ones. In other Nelson and Zondervan Bibles. And of course you have a note regarding the type, because it is using the 2K Denmark fonts. Would I say this is an improvement? Is probably in most regards an improvement. I haven't dug too deep into how much they've improved the notes or whatever, but I definitely think they've moved it superficially. I do wish they kept manufacturing in the U.S., though. This is the presentation page. It's more or less the same one that's in the older edition. Complete with having Psalm 119, 105 on the back of it. It's just been retypeset. And of course they've added this sort of striped motif. Jesus freak out.